Again, it is after sunset with the rest of the light, but I want to show you this. So you see the other stuff here in the watermelon patch. It's pretty tall, and what's interesting is the Bermuda grass is also very tall. So when there are other plants where it can lean onto, then it does that. And so either you have a lot of Bermuda grass and it stacks up, or it takes advantage of neighbors, and that way it also grows tall. If I would step in here, it would certainly go to my knees. There is a flower that I planted that is also there. Of course, there's some thorny stuff. But then we are going to have watermelons, because you see it here. So there, that's from the watermelon. And here, there is another one that goes in there. And these are getting flowers there at the end and in between, but they are still very, very small. So this will be late for some reason, but that's good. So we will have watermelons, and I guess also in between there, because as long as light comes in, it doesn't really matter. I don't think that the weeds, which this is, will overwhelm this. As long as the plant gets sunlight, it will make a watermelon. So this is a very interesting experiment. Of course, in the future, I hope to do this in a different way, and hopefully in the future there will be less of these, but it is very hard to control in such a mixed environment. But then isn't that what a food forest is all about? That you grow things that are edible amongst supporting species? Monoculture, of course, is easy, because then you make sure that there's only the one plant that you are interested in. So we will see how this turns out. Of course, a salad you cannot grow like this, or other plants that you want to harvest very early on. Or maybe you can, you are aggressive, remove everything else, maybe even with some flame weeder, and then you put what you want. That's what they do when they grow vegetables professionally. But then I want to do this in a forest style. So this is extremely interesting. And after all, I'm not trying to grow my own food. That is not what I'm trying to do. There's a lot of infrastructure where I can buy my food. This is more about restoring the land and having a nice surrounding. And if there's some food item, well, then I appreciate it. But it is not the aim to be independent and produce my own food. Then I would have to stop working my IT stuff and other things. So that's not the direction. We got a rain warning, but as it turns out, it is raining in nearby Jaén, which is the other province. It is some 100 kilometers away. And you see there to the west, the sky is light. It's a bit darker over here, but despite the clouds, you see there is blue sky, and it very likely will not rain. But it is a positive thing. Carlotta the goose is making noise. So I just stepped out to see if it might rain. The air smells moist, that I can tell. But it will not rain, as it appears. And over there, I was a little bit worried, and then I replaced the nozzle from the wobbler. So they were getting a little bit less water than I was hoping for. And so the other nozzle provides higher water flow. And I have to say, the Paulownia trees, there where I dug with the excavator, they are growing faster. But it's not a clear-cut image. So I guess let me take care of something and then go over there and tell you more about that. And I also need to feed the cat. So I will do that and then continue explaining what I observed. So as I was getting his food, I also heard another meow. And his friend is there. So there she is meowing, or he, I'm not really sure, I think it's a she, because cats are territorial. And then I tell you a story about that guy and the other one. So let's go there and give them both their food. Because this one is more of the fly fast type. But there she is. Well, at least she did not run away. And there's their food now. For some reason, he stayed there. But she is approaching. That is good. Food is how you train animals. Okay, so what I wanted to tell you is, these trees here, they were planted just by using a little pickaxe. Not very deep, just a scratch. And as you can see, they are growing tall. And there's nothing to complain. They might have needed a little bit more water, but then it was also very hot. So that they folded their leaves in is also for their own protection. But yeah, I would definitely like to give them more water, ideally water early morning and then at night. But I don't have enough water and not enough electricity. This will change, but for this round that's the case. And here, this one, despite the fact that it sits right next to the wobbler, has been struggling a bit. So that's a bit strange, and it is one of the earlier ones, so from the first batch. The one over there is looking nice, and the one here is kind of a disappointment. The color is okay now, but it was definitely struggling. And here I lost one, and this one is also struggling. And over there and here I lost two more. So I planted 4 and I lost 3. And you can see that this soil is compacted, but now this is where the old house sat on top. So the old, we wanted to have the geese here. So initially it was the doghouse. But you can see that this has cracks now. So that means it's moist, but it's at the edge of drying out. So that might be one of the reasons. But then I changed the nozzle of this wobbler. And now this area gets a lot more water. And I have been using the same type of nozzle here for the last 2 wobblers as well. So there is definitely more water available, and you see how all the weeds have grown. But this is also an area where I disturbed a lot, so I had the excavator here, and if you go back a couple of videos, you see that I moved the soil here quite a bit, and I did not bother to flatten it out and compact it again. I just tried to get it loose, and so I left it. And you see how well they are developed. On the other hand, they are not taller than the ones over there. So I'm not really sure. But then this was very compacted. On the other hand, the weeds on the other side, they're also growing very well. But in the center of this former animal lane was there where now the fence line sits. So I'm not sure if excavating before you plant these Paulownia trees is really needed. My suspicion is leaning towards you need to provide ample moisture, and then the trees figure this out themselves. There are some statistics about the force of plant roots, and they are very, very strong. Now that I'm here, and again it is late, but that's because of my other schedule. So let me, it's a little bit treacherous terrain here. Let me take you, there you see how I left this. There wasn't any attempt to even this out somehow. So there are valleys, and of course these valleys, they will fill with water. And we have different types of grasses here as well. The all came up naturally. So I want to check out the other Paulownia trees. This is the area that's very moist. There's always a little bit of puddle because it gets spray from both ends. And you see, I was expecting this to grow very well, but it does not. So there's definitely no shortage of moisture, because you see how moist it is, and there is a puddle. But this guy, despite nice color, has not grown very, very tall. And his neighbor is also on the short side. But then I planted them a little bit later than the others. So the first ones were the ones there to the left. Yeah, there to the left, and then the ones there where the wobblers are. So there were Mr. Caddies. And those were the absolute last ones. Let's check this out in more detail. So these are the very, very last ones. The ones that are in cages, they came very early. And you see, they are not very tall. They are lagging behind the ones in the other area, despite the fact that there is ample moisture here. And the ground is soft. So all these trees here, they are lagging behind. Oh, see that one? The color is good, but not the size. This one is even a little bit yellow. There on the other side, they are also struggling. They still do exist. There at the end I lost a few. So this is a challenging thing. And therefore, my reading of all this is, I found something. It's a little piece. There it ends, right there where the tree ends. where the tree is. You see, there it ends. Yeah, so like I was about to say, so my reading of all this is that going forward I will lay this kind of pipe and then put the yellow, no, not the yellow, the red sprinklers in it, those mini sprinklers, every 3 meters, place a tree there, and so on, and have both, so on both sides of such a guy. And that's all that I will do in the first round, in the first step. So that's the plan for the upcoming year, when I do want to plant a lot of these trees. Given that now over autumn, so very soon, I can create a lot more storage for water. So my plan was always to enlarge the existing pond and also dig another pond that is twice as big. So my estimate is that I can probably add maybe some 800 cubic meters of storage capacity. Right now I have about 150, so that would then definitely solve the problem. And this is really needed because I'm getting by. So if I wanted to do more, I don't have the water for it. So the idea to irrigate more trees there in that direction, this will not fly until I have a lot more storage capacity. So it's an easy job. The water flows through the area that's over there. There's this creek, so I simply do the same thing. I do not block it, I just keep it for a little bit longer, and when my 2 ponds are full, then of course the other stuff will flow towards the creek, towards the river, and so on and so on. And yeah, I learned that this is not a problem. And after all, I'm doing something good, so it should not be an issue. And then the thing about another pump in the second pond and a buffer tank there will then show up. So I need to move this camera a little bit more. So let me do this properly. It was a little bit misaligned. So the plan is to have a concrete pad there, a holding tank, and a pump there, so that I have an independent system, because that's the other thing. I can only drive 8 lines throughout the time that I have. And if I do this for an hour or an hour and a half per line, the day is over. And that includes the shadier early morning, early night parts. And if I wanted to do irrigation truly at night, so let's say at 3 a.m., yeah, of course I need to increase my battery capacity. I also want to do this, but it's another 10,000 euro thing to double the battery capacity. I will eventually do this, so that's not the issue. The question is timing. So I need to move forward in some sensible steps without overstretching. So therefore, water first and battery capacity next. And then, before the summer begins, another buffer tank here. And that should work out. And then we can plant a lot of trees here. And of course, if someone would like to help with that, of course, you are greatly welcomed. So we can have fun doing this, but it's not necessary. I can also do this on my own. But that's the plan. We're getting there, was this other approach. Now I'm very positive. Before I had a lot of doubts, but now, with more knowledge, things look better.